Hey guys, Quinn here. So a little while ago, I did a video on the Vision Pro because I had a chance to try it out in Cupertino. So I talked about my experiences and what we knew at the time. But since then, there's been some more information that's come to light. So this video is to update you on the very latest with the Vision Pro. I've divided it into some chapters so you can skip ahead if you want to, but here's what we know. Well, first off, getting technical, with the Vision Pro, we discovered that now that the screen itself, which is pretty amazing, actually has a 90 hertz refresh. So most phones like the Apple iPhone 14 have 120 hertz refresh screens, and that is great for things like fast action and gaming. So because this is a 90 hertz sort of dual display, that means that it's still good for gaming. I think 60 hertz is probably the minimum you'd want for something like that, but 120 hertz would be good. But I think that this is really just a limit of the technology itself. So there's a thermal system inside the Vision Pro, which is designed to really quietly move air through the inside. I don't remember this when I tried it out, but I mean, this sounds like a great feature to keep things cool. So the battery is meant to only give you a couple of hours of charge, and it's on the end of a sort of a cable. You get one that will ship with the package. However, the battery can actually be swapped out. So if you do need to have more time with it, you can swap batteries, which is a good thing. So in terms of all the cameras, there's meant to be 12 in total, but we found out that there's actually 4 LED cameras that are facing inwards, and those are what are tracking your eye's movement. And these infrared sensors will also be used for the optic ID system. So this is like a face ID, only it uses, I guess, your unique optic nerves sort of characteristics to help, I guess, provide a security layer, so you'll be able to unlock things just by the system checking your optic nerves or making payments and transactions like that. So with the hand tracking, the system actually uses something called an infrared flood illuminator, and that actually helps it track hands in low lighting conditions. So it shouldn't matter whether you're using it day or night, it should still be able to see your hands. And I thought the hand tracking was actually quite excellent, although when I tried it, it was in bright lighting conditions. And also it will use LiDAR, which is basically using light to determine depth. It's sort of like a radar only using light. And that's the same type of sensor that is actually on an iPhone 14. So it's kind of sticking with that technology also to help with the hand tracking. Look, there's been lots of conversations about the excessive price of the Vision Pros at $34.99 US. Mark Gurman has been reporting that we may see something called the Apple Vision 1s as opposed to the Apple Vision Pros, maybe out towards the end of next year, and these would be a cheaper version. We don't know how cheap, maybe a few $100s, hopefully more than that. But what's interesting is that I think the point of difference with the Vision Pros is the really, really good hand tracking, as well as the that sort of point of presence they call eyesight. That's where the screen on the outside will show you the person's eyes if they can see you through the system, if they're in pass-through mode, and vice versa. You can see them coming and approaching you in your space. And I think that's true. I don't think they'll want to compromise on those two things because these are things that may be needed for virtual reality or mixed reality glasses to really hit the mainstream. Where they may compromise are the screens. So they've got something called a micro OLED display, and that's 4K per eye. So they may be able to scale that back down to 2K, which would still probably be acceptable. In addition to that, the headset that I wore had spatial sound in the band integrated in there, and what they may do is just leave that out entirely, and then you would need to bring your AirPods instead and to get that same experience. And lastly, I guess if the visual, if it's 2K per eye, then you'll need probably a slower processor, maybe less hardware inside it to sort of power this device, so that could help save costs too. So how quickly the Vision Pros are able to wirelessly send information to and from the device will be critical to its success. So Ming-Chi Kuo was saying that the iPhone 15 and iPhone 16s will have enhanced hardware to help facilitate this. So we're going to see a new ultra-wideband chip in the iPhone 15, apparently. And then in the iPhone 16, we'll see Wi-Fi 7. So these are two wireless standards that are, I guess, okay now, but they'll become much, much faster. And that's what the Vision Pro will need in order to have ultra-quick transfers of pretty large visual files. Ultra-wideband, for those who don't know, is it's sort of like Bluetooth, only it operates much faster. It can do things like tell you what direction a device is from another device. It's what's used for things like AirDrop right now. So the iPhone 15 will get an enhanced ultra-wideband chip, and then we'll see a faster version of Wi-Fi, which will do 30 to 40 gigabits per second, apparently. It was interesting to see Mark Zuckerberg's response to the Vision Pros earlier on when it was announced. I guess Zuckerberg doesn't really see the Vision Pros as a threat. He criticized them for being obviously very expensive and inaccessible, because they had a battery that only gave you a few hours of battery life, whereas I guess the Meta Quest 3 you can plug in and they're only $500. The Vision Pros aren't Meta's idea of the future. With Meta, it's more about having an accessible, affordable platform that's all about bringing people closer together. Whereas I guess with the Apple devices, maybe there's less emphasis on getting people together and more about your personal experience. And of course, they're not as accessible. So when I use the Vision Pros, I was absolutely blown away by some of the demos with Alicia Keys and playing baseball in their new sort of interactive 3D format for the headset. So Apple has announced Monarch Legend of Monsters, which is a new title coming out for Apple TV Plus. And this is reportedly going to be shot in the same 3D format to be used with the Vision Pros to make the most of that whole cinematic experience. I mean, Apple did tell me at the time that they really weren't going to get into the business of producing content. That wasn't what they wanted to do, and that's why they partnered with Disney and probably others who can take care of that content production in this new format, and then it can be released on Apple TV Plus for people who do have the headset to enjoy. So there's also an interesting little altercation between Huawei and Apple because Huawei has the trademark for the name Vision Pro in China. So this is similar to what happened back in 2012 with iPad, where Apple had to pay a Chinese company to get the rights to use the term iPad in China. So I guess Huawei is saying that they'll need to pay, Apple will need to pay them to use Vision Pro in China, and I'm sure it's going to be a tiny sum. So some developers who were looking at Vision OS found some evidence to suggest that there'll be a travel mode for the Vision Pros. And the idea here is, I guess, for Apple to make them adaptable for when you're on a plane or maybe you're commuting or in transport somewhere. And if you can imagine, you probably don't want to be doing certain things. Like, for example, there was a reduction in, I guess, gaze tracking. So they wouldn't want you to moving your head all over the place looking at the world around you. So maybe it'll center things in front of you. There is a code string that suggests that it will tell you to remain stationary because it wouldn't want you to get up and move around to explore the world, obviously, if you're sitting in a plane seat. There's a couple of little interesting things there, and there'll apparently be a travel mode. So TechRadar has suggested that it might be better to wait for the second gen Vision Pro headsets because there'll be a few features that will be added since the first version. One of them is that apparently the first version may not be able to put on sort of your virtual display multiple computers' screens. So I'm not sure if you remember, but if you look at, say, your Mac with the Vision Pros on, you can then see your Mac screen and sort of drive it remotely. But apparently the first iteration of Vision Pros will only be able to do that with one external device. So if you've got a laptop and an iPad or two computers, you wouldn't be able to have one screen here and one screen here in your sort of virtual display. And that could be because what I was mentioning before is that maybe the connectivity isn't there, the bandwidth communicating with other devices isn't there. And that's why Apple wants to sort of strengthen that ecosystem by putting a new ultra-wideband chip into the iPhone 15 and Wi-Fi 7 into the iPhone 16 as it develops. So there's one thing. Also, there was another suggestion that the next gen could support Apple Fitness in a virtual reality or augmented reality sort of way. So maybe when you're doing your exercise, you can have all kinds of different stats and sensors and measurements, heart rate and all that sort of stuff sort of overlaid on your screen. But if you ask me, I don't know why that couldn't be supported in software in the first iteration of the Vision Pro. But like anything, by the second version, it'll be better than the first. We hope it'll be lighter than the first, faster, maybe cheaper, who knows. Another thing, sort of in a similar vein, is that apparently you'd only be able to have a FaceTime conversation on a one-to-one level when it is creating a digital version of your face or a digitized version of your face. So if you're in a group FaceTime, it wouldn't be able to do this. I guess maybe just use a standard icon for you or a photo of you. But if you're doing a one-to-one FaceTime, it can create a digital version of you. I'm not sure if this is true, but it's suggesting that it can't support a digital version of you in a group FaceTime. Not really sure why this would be a problem, because I would have figured it could just mimic your image across all of the different people, but apparently this is something else that it may not be able to do in the first version. So how much does the Vision Pro actually cost Apple to make? Well, Tom's Guide put an article out to suggest that it was probably looking at about US $1,519 for all of the parts to put the thing together. The most expensive element was these micro OLED displays, so the two 4K micro OLED displays, which are apparently made by Sony. And the thing about these is that because they are such advanced technology and difficult to manufacture, I think the real challenge is to be able to create them at scale to support the number of devices that Apple wants for launch. More on that later. Apparently Sony may only be able to produce from 100 to 400,000, 100,000 per quarter, 400,000 of these displays per year, which would severely limit the number of Vision Pros that could actually be produced. So if it costs them $1,500 or so, selling for $3,500, that's the markup apparently. We've heard from Mark Gurman at Bloomberg that the process for actually getting your Vision Pros would require you make an appointment at the Apple Store. And because of that, it's probably not going to be easy to do that at a high volume. You need to go there, have a sitting, you'll get fitted. If you have prescription lenses, these will get, checked over, or you'll have to give them your prescription. And then from there, you go and actually get the Vision Pros made for you and the prescription lenses sent to you by Zeiss. So it seems like you will need to get an appointment, and this isn't something that you can just quickly and easily order online. I think that Apple is probably trying to deter people from doing the online ordering thing. Not to say that they won't allow it, but I think that there'll probably be more issues with getting a good fit. We're expecting that Apple will roll this out with these appointments at the major retail locations first, so the big Apple stores, followed by the smaller ones after that. And the Vision Pro is going to be sold in the US first, followed then probably by Canada and the UK in a few months. And then after that, Korea, Australia, Japan, New Zealand, and then from there, I'm not really sure. But that's probably the rollout that's going to happen. So one of the biggest stories that we've heard is that Apple is scaling down its initial projections, allegedly from 3 to 4 million units in the first year down to 500,000 or 400,000. Now, I think that this is possibly because really the manufacturing difficulty is really tricky because the Vision Pros are so advanced and they're using the latest cutting edge tech, including those 4K micro OLED screens for each eye that Sony may only be able to make a few 100,000 in a year anyway. So these projections being reduced may have more to do with what they can manufacture and less about the demand or perceived demand that people will have. Yes, we know the price is very high. Yes, there's not a really compelling reason to have these other than the fact that they're super duper cool and they're the best of any mixed reality headset that is out there so far that I've experienced. But ultimately wearing a computer on your head is still pretty new for a lot of people. The fact that they need to be custom fit to you and all of those types of things, and you need to make an appointment to have that done, could really, reduce demand. And it's interesting to think that the iPhone sold 3 million units in the first 3 months, and I believe it topped out at 10 million units in its first year. But this really isn't that type of device. It reminds me more of the Apple Watch, where it really has come into its own now, and there's a lot of compelling reasons to buy it. It's really now seen as a health device, an activity tracker, rather than just a smart computer on your wrist. So I think it's kind of found its niche, but it took time to get there, and I think we're going to see that with the Vision Pros as well. They're certainly not going to be a big volume seller. I think they're going to be out. They're going to be an amazing demonstration of technology. People will want them, but it'll take a little while before they really find their feet as a device that people really connect with and really have a purpose for. So we'll see. But look, that's your latest catch up on the Apple Vision Pros. What we know right now, we'll keep on tracking this and keep you up to date. And if you want to follow more about the Vision Pro or you like the video, please give us a like or even consider subscribing so we can create more great content for you. Also, let me know what you think of the Vision Pros. It's been a great conversation in the last video. A lot of people really like them. Some people thought they're way too expensive, unsurprisingly. Others reminded me of things like, well, what happens if you have contact lenses? Do you need to have lenses made for you, or can you just use them out of the box, just buying them from the Apple Store? So really good conversations on there. So yeah, I'd love to know more about what you guys think or any ideas you want to see in other videos. So I'm Quinn, and we'll catch you in the next one.